Hello everyone, welcome to this week's Purple Penny video. My name's Mark. I own and run the Purple Penny along with my wife Catherine. Purple Penny's been running for about 4.5 years. We're in the northern suburbs of Adelaide in a place called Mawson Lakes, about a 10-minute train ride from the city. We had lots of visitors here in the last few weeks from interstate who found out how easy it is to get out here. So these videos have been held every Monday for the last 3.5 years or so, and we try to run through what coins and banknotes have been in the news in the last week, and where possible we have a topic of the week to, I guess, try and share a bit of information about coins and so on. Right, last week in the shop was a little quiet, but given that the expo was last weekend, I guess everyone in Adelaide has scratched their coin itch, and I wasn't too surprised that less people than normal come in. That being said, we're still perfectly fine. We still turned over a fair bit of inventory and saw a lot of regular faces. Right, let's say a few hellos here to people before we get started. Hello Patrick and Michelle, Claire, Peter, Nelson, John, Brett and Ray, Adam, Damien, Alex and Justin. Hello, there's a few regulars there. Right, let's jump into the news now. Last week we did touch briefly on the mention of the announcement of the King Charles portrait for Australian coinage. We're going to expect to see those in circulation by the end of the year on dollar coins, and then the rest of the denominations next year. Collector coins, we should see the portrait in 2024. Now, I've just drawn a blank on the name of the sculptor who sculpted the portrait. I think Martin Tyler is the name, or Martin something. There was a better picture that showed up in the news this week. So the photographer there, Mick Tsakis from AAP, has taken a photo of one of the coins that was on display at the launch, and it certainly shows the relief of the portrait a fair bit better than the computer rendering that we displayed last week. There are a lot of people suggesting the detail around the eyes and so on was lacking in the rendering we saw last week, and indeed it was. This picture gives you a much better idea of the relief of the portrait. So that's what we're going to be seeing by the end of the year, we hope, on dollar coins in circulation. Right, next item of the news was Independent Coin News. Independent Coin News is a bi-monthly newsletter published by Peter Andrews, who I think is here watching today. We're coming up to the November edition of Independent Coin News. I think it's released at the end of this month. Peter has some polls running on the Independent Coin News Facebook page. I won't give you a link to that. If you just go to Facebook and Google Independent Coin News, you'll find that. Peter has some polls running there about the proposed decimal coin designs back in 1966. So he's pulled up images of several proposed designs for various denominations, along with the actual selected design, and is asking people to just give their feedback on the proposed designs versus the actual selected design. So please do jump onto Facebook, search for Independent Coin News, go and take part in those polls, and also sign up for the newsletter, because it is a very good newsletter. It's much larger than anyone was expecting it to be. It contains a lot of content, and it's completely free, so what's not to like about that? And Peter does know his stuff, so it is well worth reading that. Now, I will just say that the amount of coin articles in the news at the moment, the mainstream media is very heartening. The hobby is very much front of mind, I think, in the media, and there's been 3 or 4 articles a week appearing in the media. Sure, some of the quality of some of them is a bit rubbish, because I think a few journalists are just following various social media accounts and regurgitating the content they see there. But we have had at least 3 distinct coin news articles this week pop up in the mainstream media, and I've just decided to focus on 2 of them today. The Royal Mint announced what they're calling the definitive designs for King Charles, and we'll just show you those with you. So these are what are going to appear in the next uncirculated and proof sets from the Royal Mint, and also are appearing in circulation. The definitive designs for Queen Elizabeth was the coat of arms coins that were released in 2008. This new set of definitive designs here reflects King Charles's interest in the environment, and the coins contain native United Kingdom flora and fauna. So you can see the full range of denominations there, from 1p through to £2. So the 1p has a hazel dormouse, the 2p has a red squirrel, the 5p has an oak leaf, the 10p has a capercaillie grouse, which is a type of bird. The 20p has a puffin, which of course is found in the UK. The 50p an Atlantic salmon. The £1 has bees on it. You can never go wrong with bees on coins, that's always very popular. And the £2 has the various national flowers from the various constituents of the United Kingdom. So there's a clover for Ireland, a Scotch thistle for Scotland, a daffodil for Wales, and the English rose for the UK. So I do like the new designs. I think they are very easily read, very easily understood, and having the different coloured backgrounds under the denominations certainly makes them quite distinctive. I think they've done a good job. And I guess if you're interested in getting unk or proof sets of these coins, then do keep an eye out on your local Royal Mint distributor, and I'm sure that they will appear. I think the unk set is going to retail at about $70 or so. The proof set, I'm not 100% sure about that. Right, so the other coin news articles that popped up this week were commentary on, I guess, what people think should be on Australian coins. I guess that was just prompted by the King's portrait. So there was one news story which I'm not covering, saying that Steve Irwin should be on our coins. The reputable or disreputable Bob Catter, depending on who you believe, what side of politics you're on, had his say for what it's worth, and he believes that having the King on the coin is un-Australian, and he suggested using, for example, World War II soldiers from Australia, a Kokoda track soldier or a First Nations warrior, wielding various items. And then he had a couple of specific people that he suggested should put onto coins. And gosh knows why he would suggest Leo Hilscher, who is a 68-year veteran of the Queensland Public Service. Now, I'm sure that Leo did a fine job, but I'm not really sure what Australia-wide impact he's had on the country and why he would deserve to be on a coin. And his other suggestion was quite an interesting one. Dr. John Bradfield, who was the designer of the Sydney Harbour Bridge, should appear on a coin. Now, of course, I don't know if Australia has a legal obligation to have the monarch on their coins, but I would suggest if we're going to have people on coins, they're probably going to want to be a bit more significant than a public servant. And Peter says he didn't suggest himself. Yeah, he did actually. He basically said at the end, and if you can't find anyone better, what about me? So yeah, definitely not Bob Catter and those other people there. Now, like I said, I don't know if Australia has a legal obligation to have the portrait on of the monarch on their coins, but certainly if you're going to have people on them, they'd want to be a bit more significant than a public servant. Right, and that's coming from an ex-public servant as well, so please don't take that the wrong way if you're a public servant. Catherine Harris says, so definitive means standard designs. So, yeah, that's an interesting question, Catherine. Definitive is more of a term that I would associate with stamps, but I actually read the definition of definitive when I read this news story. It basically means the standard designs for that particular monarch. Now, of course, these are being released pretty much straight after the king has started reigning, but the queen's supposed definitive designs weren't released until almost more than 50 years after she started reigning. So that's the coat of arms designs, which you might see in English coins. But yeah, basically definitive means standard for that monarch. It's interesting, as I said, it's not a term that I have heard before associated with coins. Lynette says, will you have a coin release on the 23rd of October? And I don't know what coin release that is, Lynette. We don't stock Royal Mint products, if that's what you're asking us. Let's see what everyone else says. Michelle Scheller says, I'd suggest Dame Edna first. Well, of course, Dame Edna has already appeared on a coin. There aren't many modern people, and I will say that Dame Edna is modern, that appear on circulating coins in Australia. Certainly on NCLT they do appear. Right, next item in the news is a find of coins in Scotland. And you know I do like these types of stories. So this was a find of 36 coins that was found by an archaeology student in Scotland in a fireplace, and the coins themselves come from France, Netherlands, the Papal States, and 4 or 5 different British monarchs. None of the coins date after 1680. And the site itself dates to the 17th century, which is the 1600s, and it's associated with Alastair MacLean MacDonald, who is a well-known figure in Scottish history. He was the leader of Clan MacDonald for about 15 years, and he was one of the people that was killed in the so-called Glencoe massacre of 1692. And the reason that happened is that the British monarch, William and Mary, were Protestants, and the Catholic clans refused to pledge allegiance to the British monarchs because of that. And a local British, I guess, dignitary took it upon himself to round up members of the Clan MacDonald at a place called Glencloe and kill them all. He killed, they believe, between 30 and 40 people. And how these coins relate to that is that they thought that perhaps these coins were put aside by one of the members of the Clan MacDonald when they were arrested by the British, and they had planned to come back and get them. And of course, if they were involved in the massacre, they couldn't come back. So it's a really interesting bit of history there, and again takes coins from being just mundane pieces of metal into genuine historical artifacts that can be linked to momentous events in nation's history. Now, the next item in the news has nothing, I guess, to do with news, but has to do with coin tosses. Now, coin tosses, of course, is where we grab a coin and we flip it on our thumb, usually. And coin tosses are used for, for mundane things such as gambling and who gets to serve in tennis and who starts a football match or a soccer match. But of course, they're also used to decide elections and things like that when there's a tie. And it turns out that coin tosses are not 50-50. And what does that mean? It means that you don't necessarily have a 50% chance of one side appearing over the other side. Now, there was a paper released in 2007 where someone had tossed a few thousand coins and come up with the side that starts on top appears about 51% of the time. So what does that mean? It means that if you put the coin on your thumb with the head side facing up, 51% of the time the head side would face up. Now, that was on the basis of about 7,000 coin tosses, but there has been a study just completed in the Netherlands, and this is not peer-reviewed yet, but they had 48 volunteers toss various coins from around the world 350,000 times. 350,000 times. And what they found was that the side that was on top, and it didn't matter whether it was heads or tails or what coin it was from around the world, the side that was on top came up in the toss 50.8% of the time, and that agrees very well with the earlier study. Now, the reason why they believe this is so is because when we toss the coin, we do not spin it symmetrically. We actually spin it slightly out of symmetry, and the physics term for it is we apply a precession to that spinning of the coin, and that means that the side that's on top actually spends ever so slightly more time on the top of the spin than the other side, and that explains why we see the side that is on top come up in the coin toss 50.8% of the time. Now that might sound like much, but some of the papers I read suggested that 0.8% is actually bigger odds than what you get from playing blackjack at the casino, and that's if you're a really good blackjack player. So what does that mean? It means that if you can find somewhere that is tossing coins, and you can somehow work out what side of the coin is on top before they toss it, that you could potentially make more money than playing blackjack at the casino. So revolutionary news there. Coin tosses are not 50-50. Topic of this week is bimetal coin errors here in Australia, and of course Australia didn't make any circulating bimetal coins in the decimal series or the pre-decimal series. All of the bimetal coins that Australia has released have been NCLT, but NCLT being non-circulating legal tender, basically coins for collectors. But in the last 15 years or so, there have been at least 3 different bimetal coins pop up that I thought about this morning. And this just comes from a lovely coin that I saw in Adelaide the weekend before last at the Expo. So how does an Australian coin get struck on a bimetal blank? Well, it happens in error, of course, and the 3 examples I'm going to share with you today have all probably come about the same way, and that's through what's called blank contamination. How does blank contamination occur? Well, if it happened here, if blanks were made here in Australia at the Royal Australian Mint, it could appear happen because blanks get jammed or stuck in machines. So for example, if the mint was making dollar coins and then cycled over to making 50-cent pieces, perhaps a dollar blank could get stuck in a machine and end up in a 50-cent press. Blanks could get spilled and swept up and put into the wrong hoppers, but of course here in Australia our blanks are made overseas and then imported into the country. They're made at a company called Poong San, which is in South Korea, and Poong San is probably the single largest manufacturer of coin blanks for in the world. They make coin blanks for dozens and dozens of countries, and the 3 coins I'm going to show you now almost certainly have come about because of blank contamination at the factory in South Korea. Now, how does that happen? We'll never know for sure, but by hook or by crook, foreign blanks have ended up in supplies of Australian blanks. They get struck by the Royal Australian Mint here and get out into circulation, and they're found by very lucky members of the public. These coins are worth several $1,000s each, and if you happen to find one at face value, then you are very much a lucky collector. So the first one is a coin that we actually handled ourselves. We wrote about this coin several years ago. We saw 2 examples of this particular coin pop up into auction. We had the opportunity to photograph it because the owner of one of the examples was kind enough to loan it to us, and we photographed it, and then several years later we actually bought it off of that person, and it's then been sold. So thank you to Gary and Monica for allowing us to use these images, because they own this coin at the moment. So it's a 20-cent piece struck on a 10.66 gram planchet. it has a stainless or copper nickel core and an aluminium bronze or brass ring. So in terms of bimetal planchets, the terminology for the centre part is the core, and for the ring around the outside, that's called the ring. It's one of two coins known, and back in 2016 or 2017 when these were first found, they were selling for several $1,000s, and when we sold it a little while ago, I think we got a bit less than that, but I can't remember exactly what we sold it for. I'm sure Gary and Monica will let us know. And I can remember back in 2016 and 17, Catherine and I applying online resources to try and work out a matching coin for this, because of course if Poong San made these blanks, they probably made it for a coin from another country. And at that time we matched it to an Iranian 250 rials, which weighs 10.7 grams, has a brass ring and a copper nickel core. So that matched quite nicely. We were never really sure because Poong San doesn't really publicise who they make blanks for. There's no annual reports or anything like that that we could find. But Alex Birkin, who is watching today, he's a super sleuth. He actually identified the source of one of the other coins I'm going to talk about, but he found a promotional video that Poong San released, and included in that video is a flag of all the countries that they make blanks for. And as I was looking at the screen capture that he sent us, down there, second from the left, third row down, is an Iranian flag, and I've got that lavender arrow pointing at that. So I'm going to go with the fact that Poong San make Iranian coins, and that back in 2016 or 2017 when we put up the Iranian 250 rials as a potential source for this 20-cent bimetal error, I'm going to run with that and say that we've found the right thing there. So wrong metal, bimetal planchet, 20 cent, one of two known, and good luck finding one. They're very difficult to find. I would imagine that if there are any more, they would have been found by now. Now, I'll just have a look at the comments here, if there's any comments here. Samantha says, I love Steve Irwin, but I wouldn't want to see him on our everyday coins. Yeah, that's probably the same as most people. Alex says, bonus. Well, mate, I wouldn't have found it without you, so thank you for sending us through that screen capture. Right, the next coin was a dollar coin, and Catherine and I wrote an article about this maybe 12 or 13 years ago for the Australian Coin and Banknote magazine. It was a bimetal dollar that someone received in change at Woolworths, and I remember the story quite clearly. The lady who received it in change needed a dollar coin for a change. The Woolworths checkout person broke open a roll and popped this coin out of the roll and put it in her hand, and she saw straight away that there was something unusual about it, and put it to one side. So again, it's got a copper nickel or stainless steel core and an aluminium bronze or brass ring. It weighs 8.1 grams. Now what made this one really easy to find is that it had edge lettering, and this is really interesting, not only because it makes it easy to find, but it suggests that Poong San actually will apply edge lettering to coins before they supply them to the countries that need them to make coins. The edge lettering on the coin says BCV1, and it's quite easy to figure out what that stands for. Banco Central de Venezuela, so the Central Bank of Venezuela, and the 1 stands for 1 bolivar. So the Venezuelan 1 bolivar is an 8.1 gram bimetal 24 millimeter coin. So, you know, it was quite easy to find this one. I guess, you know, from a slightly more technical point of view, generally you would want the source coin to have a diameter smaller than a dollar coin. So our struck dollar coin is 25 millimeters, and both of the examples of these coins that I've shown you so far have a diameter of about a half a millimeter or a millimeter less than a dollar coin. Now, why it could be the same diameter as a dollar coin, but generally less. Now, why does it have to be the same or less? Well, that's so that the blank can fit in our dollar die or the 20-cent die. Of course, if the source coin has a diameter larger than the dollar coin or the 20-cent coin or whatever it happens to be, then the blank will not fit in the collar and it cannot be an error. So this was a pretty remarkable find. I can remember Catherine and I were very excited about this, and we communicated with the finder of it many times and got more photos out of them and weights and things like that, and it was quite a find. And at the time, as far as I know, the first bimetal decimal coin that had actually surfaced, the 20-cent pieces that I showed you earlier, I don't think had shown up at that point. And as far as I know, the finder still owns this. They haven't sold it yet. It hasn't appeared at auction. They're just sitting on it. Again, a remarkable find. Right, so the last one is the one that I managed to hold last week. It is appearing in the next Roxbury's auction, which is Roxbury's Sale 125, lot 454. It is in a PCGS holder, and PCGS have attributed it as a Australian $20 struck on a 6.4 gram bimetallic planchet, and that's it. Pretty remarkable coin. From what I understand, it was found in a security bag of dollar coins by a young gentleman, and he took it into Roxbury's, and they led him through the process of having it graded by PCGS, where it graded MS64, and then he's put it into auction. So there's another bimetallic dollar. Again, a pretty remarkable thing, and certainly when I spoke to the people at Roxbury's, they thought it might be a Kazakhstan coin, and conversations with Alex Birkin, who again is watching here, he's pretty convinced that it's a Kazakhstan coin, and the evidence he's shown me makes me think that he knows what he's talking about. So the Kazakhstan 100, apologies to any Kazakhstanis watching for me butchering their language, but 100 tenge. It's a bimetallic coin, 6.45 grams, which matches the weight quite nicely of this coin, 24.5 millimeters, so half a millimeter less than our dollar coin. It's got a copper nickel center and a nickel brass ring. Alex wasn't sure about whether he was on the ball for this, because as I said, Pung Sang don't publicise that they make blanks for certain countries, but Alex found the promotional video for Pung San, and there circled in red is the Kazakhstan flag. So I'm pretty certain that Alex is on the money for this one as well. So bimetallic coins, remarkable errors, and you'd be dead lucky to find one in your change. So that means that if you really want one, you're going to have to fight it out with others at auction when these things appear. The one I'm showing you now is live in the current Roxbury's auction. I think the bidding was up to $2,400 or something this morning. I would expect it to fetch probably 2 or 3 times that amount, and you'd be lucky to get it back again any time in the near future if anyone buys it. Right, Peter says, is there any edge milling on that $20 Peter, I didn't look that closely. Now, given that it is only a 6.4 gram planchet, I wouldn't be surprised if there is no edge milling on it. Why is that? It's because it is much underweight. It's about 2/3 of the weight of a normal dollar coin, and it may not have spread out far enough to have had the reading applied to the outside of it. I'll shoot Roxbury's an auction, actually, Roxbury's an email and ask them if it's got any edge milling on it, because that's a good question. Okay, so Alex has just answered there. Yes, it's got dollar reading. Thanks, Alex. Right. So bimetal errors, pretty remarkable things. Have only ever owned one, and we only owned it for a few weeks until it sold. Would love to own another one. If anyone's got one for sale, I'd love to buy it. That's how they happen. Blank contamination, and the 3 that I've shown you today have all happened at Pung Sang in South Korea before being sent here to Australia and accidentally struck onto our coins. Right, that's it for this week. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for, I've just noticed Nelson, who's commenting here. Nelson's come into the shop a few times. It's good to see you watching the videos, Nelson. Thank you everyone else who watches these videos and gives us such positive feedback on them, and we always welcome positive feedback, or not positive feedback. If you want to see less of my face and more of Catherine's, I'll put that to her. Anyway, that's it for now. Thanks everyone for watching. Happy collecting. Have a fun time collecting. If there is a mint release coming up, don't worry. We'll let you know. Follow our Facebook page and we'll put it up there first. And everyone have a safe week. Happy collecting. And bye for now.